Coming to visit. Come on down, everybody. And it's nice to be here and happy to take any questions from members of the media. Mary Ann.
What do you make of what the Supreme Court said about this? It said they're not going to take it up. What do you do? Do you say all right? Or do you worry about a myriad that may show up later?
Well, they did exactly what we had hoped they would do, which is to vacate the TRO that had been in place. The result of which is if we need to, if we see another variant that is making people ill, that we would be able to impose a mask requirement. But we don't have any intention to do that now. Things seem to be pretty good. Hospitalizations are way down, cases are way down, and we hope that we can sustain that through the spring and summer and frankly, forevermore.
The Illinois House tomorrow will meet and will still require masks. Are they setting themselves up for a fight over this?
Look, as I've said, there are locations that can and should keep mitigations in place because they think it's appropriate for the space that they're in. You've been in the General Assembly and in the House. You know that people are packed together. I think those seats are really only 2 feet apart from one another, and so I can understand why keeping a mask mitigation in place for the House for the time being is a good idea. Well, there are no conflicts of interest because, number one, we have a blind trust in place. Number two, there are a variety of safeguards even beyond that that make sure that I have no conflicts of interest, so that if it turned out that there was any profit that might be made from some company that was conflicted, and again, I am not involved in making any investment decisions. But if we found out that I was, then obviously, as I've said, we would donate those dollars to charity. But as far as during my term as governor, again, I have avoided all conflicts of interest because I have no involvement in any businesses.
Governor, now that you know, what do you do with that investment?
Well, as I say, I have no ability to direct anybody to make an investment or to disinvest. What I can tell you is that we have safeguards in place so there are no conflicts of interest.
Does that mean that you did sign off? At one point you do see what's going on.
By law, I have to sign a statement of economic interest. I think that's a terrific thing. The state should keep that in place. I sign that every year. There are no values associated with any of the items on that. I get it. I go to the signature page and I sign it every single year.
When did you learn the blind trust was investing in the city?
I only learned that literally because a reporter called last week from BGA.
So recently, could you just tell us what you know about your administration's efforts to block Dave Kohler's bill to claw back a percent of the managed care organization's funds? The BGA sort of draws a connection between your blind trust investing in Centene and the rough time methods associated.
Well, that's kind of a ridiculous connection. First of all, Centene had a contract with the state of Illinois before I became governor. It was the prior governor that signed that contract. That contract went into place before I got into office. So there's no, there's just no relationship in any way. I don't know quite how to respond to it because, again, I've divorced myself entirely from making investments, knowing anything about the investments, the amounts of investments, et cetera. All conflicts of interest are taken care of by virtue of the blind trust and the safeguards that we put in place. When you say a mistake, I think it would be a mistake if there was some conflict of interest or if I was engaged in it in any way. I was not, and there is down. I'm excited about the spring and the summer and what it's going to mean for everybody, that now we can all see our smiles.
But CPS does
Well, I would remind you that, as I have always said, people who want to keep in place a stricter mitigation than what the state is requiring should do so. That includes businesses. You know, the federal government requires on transit, for example, that, and on airplanes, you've got to still wear a mask. And so, you know, those are things out of our control. But we believe in the state of Illinois, the things that are under my control, that we ought to go without masks for the time being. And again, anybody who feels uncomfortable, I do want to say, very importantly, if you feel like you should wear a mask anywhere, indoors or outdoors, in a room with more people than you think is comfortable, you should wear a mask. And I want to encourage people to, you know, have some compassion for everybody else, both ways, whether they're wearing a mask or not. Well, as you know, I believe that Vladimir Putin, as an autocrat, has now exercised an aggression against a freedom-loving nation, a democracy, and that he ought to be held accountable for that. We need to protect Ukraine, to supply arms to Ukraine. We need to do everything we can within our power as not only the United States but NATO powers to protect Ukraine. And we're praying for the people of Ukraine. Everybody in the United States, whether you're descended from people from Ukraine, as I am, or you're from anywhere else in the world, we're all Ukrainians today.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.